These are out of the oven. They've been cooling now for a few minutes, so I can at least touch the outside of this. There we go. Now, folks, that's good looking. Perfect. Exactly what I was hoping for. Nice. Howdy folks, welcome to Texas Cooking Today. What you have found is one of my recipe tutorials, and we're going to get in the kitchen. I want to show you everything there is to know about pulling this recipe off. I'd like to say thank you for watching, and folks, let's get at it. Come on. Today I'm going to be making some Hot Pockets. Now, Hot Pocket, before we get into this subject, let's talk about that name. The name Hot Pocket is actually a brand name of a product. It's a pastry filled with ingredients that you heat in the microwave or in a toaster oven, and then you have something that you can have for your meal. Well, it's a pocket sandwich. All right, and I don't remember the name of the company that originally invented this. However, if I remember right, the Nestle Corporation bought it out and they own it presently. So what we're going to be making here today is a type of turnover. It is a pocket sandwich. It is a really neat way of taking care of ingredients that need to be dealt with. This is a great way to handle stuff after the holidays. You got too much turkey and dressing left over. Hey, not a big deal. Let's make some turnovers, fill them with that stuff, and then we can either eat them in the near future or freeze them and eat them later on down the road. Either way, we've used up our ingredients and we've made some delicious food. So this is going to be a simple pocket sandwich. I'm going to teach you a wonderful dough to use for this. And folks, it is essentially the same thing as what the Italians call a calzone, where you take your dough and you fill it with cheese and fold it over, vent it, and bake it up. And you can serve that with some sauce. So we're going to take the exact same approach today. I'm going to be using up some of the leftovers from Christmas. It's going to be, actually in mine, it's going to be some tamale leftovers. This will work out really well. If you have anything, it'll work. It can be chicken, beef, turkey, whatever. Just make sure that it is fully cooked. You don't put raw meat in this kind of a product. We'll discuss that later. Folks, this is simple pocket sandwiches, and let me show you how I make this. It's not that hard. Come on. Now folks, our dough that we're going to be using is a very basic dough recipe. So we're going to be using water, flour, olive oil, yeast, sugar, and salt. Very simple. I'm going to make a dough with this, and then we're going to get on talking about what ingredients we use to put in the inside. And that, well, that is just the entire world, guys. Folks, it's time to go ahead and get this taken care of. What I want to show you a few little tricks here. Number one, if you have a sifter, definitely use a sifter. It's always smart, because sometimes there's things in the flour you don't know they're there. It could be anything from processing, and or it could just be a lump of flour that needs to be broken down. Also, it helps you to combine other dry ingredients into it at the same time. If you do not own a sifter, but you do have a strainer, guess what? The strainer works as a replacement. So I'm going to take my flour. I'm going to get that put right here. Before I put the rest of that on there, I'm going to go ahead and add my other dry ingredients. Put the rest of the flour on it. There we go. A little got over the sides. I'm sure it won't be an issue. Let's go ahead and sift that off. And there we go. I had a few small bits of something in there, maybe some larger granules of salt. Either way, they're not in my flour now. I have this all ready to go. Now, I did this in a quantity that allows this to be made by hand if you wish to do it by hand. All you have to do is pour your flour and the water and olive oil together, mix it with a fork, and when it starts forming up into a ball, knead it for a few minutes. After about 4 to 5 minutes of kneading, you're ready to start rising. Now, something you need to know about rising, and I want to bring it up right now. Get you a rising kit. Now, this isn't something that you go out and buy for your dough. A rising kit is just something you put together. A bowl to rise in and something that goes over the top. I like something I can see through. This holds down the moisture and controls the environment, keeps it warm inside of the lower bowl. Works wonderful, okay? So I like using that method. And the importance of using either glass or ceramic for this job rather than metal. Yeast and metal do not get along, guys. It will inhibit your yeast growth to have it in a metal bowl. So put it in a glass bowl. It will allow the dough to rise and do what it needs to do better and faster. Okay, I have the flour that's mixed with all of the other ingredients. So put that in here. Let's go ahead. Put my dough hook on there. Folks, if you have one of these machines, for heaven's sakes, use it. And if you don't, I'm going to say this. I have never regretted the purchase. Plain and simple. Always start it on a low speed, never high, because it will throw the flour out of the bowl. We're going to give that a few minutes to do what it does. And when it's ready and it's a nice ball and it's all smooth, we'll transfer it to a bowl to rise. It has been about 2 minutes now, and you're seeing that it has formed up into a ball. I'm going to give it a few minutes to sit there and knead like that. And what this does is it just saves you the hand kneading. So if you've got the mixer, like I say, use it. It sure makes life a little easier. My dough is made now. It's nice and smooth. As you can see, it's a nice size little ball. It's about the size of a softball, really. This will make a nice number of little hot pockets. We're not going for huge hot pockets here. We're going for a small bite. And so that's what we're going to be making. But before I can do that, I need to rise this. And the whole idea there is it gives the dough a little more character. It helps it to crisp up better in the oven. It also gives it better texture once it's cooked. So we're going to rise it. Now we're going to put a little oil right down in my bowl there. There we go, and that keeps anything from sticking. Put my cover on it. I'll move this to a warm location and it's ready to go. So what do we put in our hot pockets? Pretty much anything you want to, okay? There is just one basic rule to this. It can't be anything too wet. Obviously, if you poured a can of soup in there, you're going to end up with a sloppy mess. It won't cook right. The same way, if you put ingredients that are too wet inside of it, they're not going to cook up right. The dough is going to be soggy. It's not going to be good. So what you have to do is make some hard decisions on this. For instance, let me give you an example. Let's say you wanted to do an Italian pizza pocket sandwich. So what we're going to do there is put some cheese in it, some pepperoni in it, or if you want beef or Italian sausage, put that in there. That's cool. Whatever you like that normally would come on a pizza, with the exception of the sauce. The sauce I'd put on the side, and that way you can dip it into the sauce. But if you put it on the inside, the sauce is going to make it too wet and you're going to end up with a mess. It's the same way it's done with the Italian calzone. You put some ricotta in there, some mozzarella in there, maybe another cheese or two in there, some spinach or some basil. Those aren't very wet, and then suddenly you have a calzone. But if you put the sauce in there, you got a mess. So the sauce is always served on the side. Okay? It's just that simple. Don't put eggplant and zucchini in there. They're too wet. Soggy mess again. But carrots and broccoli will work. some choices to make here, huh? So think about this. If it's after your holiday festivals and you've got too much turkey left over and you've got a half a pan of dressing left and you're wondering what are you going to do with it without trying to throw it all away, sounds to me like it's time for some New Year's holiday pocket sandwiches. Just that simple. Those items work good in there. Keep the gravy on the side to dip it into, and suddenly you've got a meal in a handheld pocket sandwich. It's delicious stuff and you're going to enjoy it. So think about your ingredients. Now me, so what am I using today? Hey, this is simple. For Christmas I made tamales. But as usual when I make tamales, I have a little bit of meat left over. Well, this time I have some of that shredded meat left over that was all seasoned up with that chili sauce seasoning, and it is delicious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill mine with that shredded pork, and I'm going to add some cheese to it, probably cheddar cheese, and I'm going to end up with some pocket sandwiches that are just absolutely banging delicious. That's all there is to it, guys. You be creative and enjoy your fillings. In a little bit, when the dough is finished rising, we'll get busy making our sandwiches. Well, our dough has risen up beautifully. It's filled this bowl. You see how it's got lots of big bubbles on the bottom. Wonderful. I have my board ready to go. We're going to roll it out right on this board. So you're going to need a rolling pin. Very handy to have. Also, you're going to need something to work as a nice round item that you want your little sandwiches to come out the size of. So look at it this way, something like a pot lid that you can use a knife and cut around, or a bowl that you could maybe invert and use that to cut around it. Anything that'll make a nice size circle will work perfect for you. So consider those options. The first thing I need to do here is get a little bit of flour on my board, and this is just going to keep anything from sticking and help everything to roll out nice and easy. A little flour on my hands helps for the same reason. I'll take this. I had a little oil on this, so I'm just going to work it in. So the oil that was in that bowl, don't worry about it, guys. It's not going to hurt a thing. Remember, we put that same oil into this dough. So what I want to do is just kind of give him a little bit of light kneading. Doesn't need a whole lot here. Just to kind of get it back down to where it was originally. Now what that did is it really developed character in the dough, and that's what we're looking for here. A couple of ways I can do this. I can take this and roll it out into one big sheet and then cut my circles from that. Or I can divide this down into small pieces, roll them out into small sheets that will then be used to make my, my little circles with. Either way will work. Let me do it that way. Normally, if I were doing this for myself, I would go ahead and roll this whole thing out. But as I work this and I think, how can I make this easier for somebody who may be learning? Well, this is it. Right here. What we want to do with these is take them and kind of work them into a circle. Plenty of flour to work with. And just start pressing that out into a circle to begin with. See how easy that was? Now this is where the rolling pin really kind of comes in handy. If you wanted, you can leave these rough and make an entire hot pocket or pocket sandwich, whichever you prefer to call the thing. Or we can go ahead and do our little cutout. So I want to do the cutout only to show you, if you're doing a whole large sheet, the ways that you can do this. The size that I want was that bowl that I had. So all I have to do is put my bowl down, hold it in the center, and simply trim around it. I can use this as material to make yet a fifth. So there we have it. Once these are folded and filled, looky there. That's going to be beautiful, isn't it? So go ahead and just work yours out the exact same way. And once you get them all done, well, we'll move right on to the next step. Well, folks, we have all of those little circles made. Beautiful little dough circle. What I need to do now is to take my filling. Now, I am using pork, and this was the same filling I use in my pork tamales. So this is a pre-cooked meat filling. And you have to make sure that whatever meat that you put in this is fully cooked, okay? You can put raw vegetables in there, you can put raw fruits in there, but do not, I repeat, do not put any kind of raw meat in one of these pocket sandwiches. It's a real simple equation, folks. If you put the raw meat in there, then it's not going to fully cook on the inside. And if it does fully cook, you've probably overcooked the outside. So I'll take a little of my cheese. This should be very interesting. Now imagine if that was a barbecued pulled pork. Imagine, oh wow, how wonderful. So what I have here is a simple paintbrush, and I purchased this just for this purpose right here, to do my cooking with, to make ravioli with and things like that, and it works well. So the idea here, I'm putting water on this dough. Now what the water is going to do, let me get some under there, when I fold this over, it's going to cause it to glue itself shut, and that's because of what's in the flour, this little substance we call gluten. It will glue it shut. It acts like a glue, okay? So, give it credit for that. Pull the hem over, press it down. Now make sure I don't get any cheese or anything in that seam because it can cause it to leak. Now once you get it to this point, you want to just kind of push out any excess air and then start sealing this edge. Now folks, you can do this a couple of ways. You can just seal the edge, or you can kind of make a pretty scallop on it by pulling it over, you know, like a pastry, you know, where we work our way around it. Or you can simply mash this down, and this is sort of the learning how to do it 101 method. Do it similar to what we do with calzones, and that's where we just paint this edge again. Okay, and then we take him and fold him up. And it doesn't have to be pretty, okay? It's going to cook up just fine. And once it's cooked, it will look lovely. So you see how I've done that? I press that down. So here we have our little pocket sandwich. But it's not completed. And this is the important step. If you don't do what I'm about to do, these things can puff up and pop when they're cooking. So you don't want it to turn into this hollow puffed up shell, and you don't want it to break while it's in the oven, you know, or explode. So go ahead and just do that right there. It's vented and it's ready to cook. So much tasty treat going on right here. Okay. And I like to use plenty of water for this. I'm not afraid of getting it too wet. It's going to be just fine. See how elastic that dough is, how it stretches? It's one of the advantages to this particular dough. You see what I'm doing here? I'm really tamping it down good. There we are. And now I can roll it. This way I get a good tight seam that isn't going to leak on me. It also makes a nice little crust. I'm one of those that loves to eat a crispy crust, and this cooks up into a wonderful one. Right there. Isn't that nice? And notice I don't make the slits too big, just enough to allow steam to escape. Well, there it is. That wasn't too difficult. Let's get it in the oven. There we go. I have that oven set up at 400 degrees. Guys, I've never cooked this one, so I don't know how long it'll take. I am anticipating somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 minutes. I'm going to check it at 15 minutes, look at that crust. If it's not right, I'll give it a little more time. That's really what we're talking about. Everything inside of it is either something that doesn't have to be cooked a lot, or it's something that's already fully cooked and just needs to be heated up. So basically, this is about cooking the crust. Give it time, be patient. The dough that we made today, the quantities on the ingredients for that dough are simple. We used 2½ cups of flour, 3/4 of a cup of water, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2¼ teaspoons of yeast. If you're using the packaged dry yeast, that would be 1 package. And 1 teaspoon of salt. That is our recipe. This can also be doubled, and when you double it, you're talking about a lot of pockets. Folks, this is something I've been thinking of adding to my videos. Tell me if you like this or not. These are the chef's notes. These are the actual notes I take before making my video. So if you want, I guess there's a good screenshot. There we go. Now, folks, that's good looking. Perfect. Exactly what I was hoping for. Nice. These are good. Really good. Guys, I've got this wonderful pork filling in it. It's all spiced up with that cheese. It's banging good. Tell you what, you know, the neat thing about this is you don't have to cook them all at once. You can take those little guys, freeze them just as they are before cooking. Whenever you want one, pull it out of the freezer. You don't have to defrost it. Just put it in the oven. It's going to take a little extra cook time, but it's going to be well worth the wait. I would lower the temperature from 400 to 350, increase that cook time to about neighborhood of 30 minutes, and you'll probably have a beautiful product. All right, that's all there is to it, and that is how you make sandwich pockets. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Folks, if you would, please take a look at the channel and please have a good day. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today. That was a fantastic tutorial, and I bet you know everything you need to know about how to do it. Now, just in case I missed anything, that's what the comment section is for. If you have any requests, or if you have anything to say, just type it out down there, and believe it or not, I actually read those. Folks, thank you very much for watching. If you would like, please take a look at my channel. And thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.